AI is revolutionizing, well, pretty much everything around us, isn't it? From spotting fraud to how we chat with customer service bots. But as these really smart systems get rolled out everywhere, there's this huge question hanging over organizations. How do we actually make sure they're secure, that they're reliable, and, trustworthy?
Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being genuinely well informed. Today, we're diving deep into the, let's say, complex world of artificial intelligence governance, risk management, and security. We've gathered a whole stack of critical questions and the expert answers straight from our source material. Why? To help you grasp the most important insights, our mission today, it's really to unpack the practical challenges and maybe some best practices for safeguarding AI systems out there in the real world. We're specifically going to tackle about 30 essential questions that organizations often grapple with when they're deploying and managing AI.
We'll cover everything from really specific attack types like prompt injection, you hear a lot about that, to broader things like, say, supply chain integrity and how you build AI systems people can actually trust. So let's get into it. Okay, let's jump right into something that's really front of mind for anyone using large language models today. How do we stop them from, well, going rogue? We've seen these scenarios, right? Where someone feeds a chatbot malicious text to make it say or do things it shouldn't. What exactly is that attack called? And more importantly, what's the main way to stop it?
Yes, that's a prompt injection attack.
Right.
Essentially, an attacker crafts specific text inputs to manipulate the LLM, making it generate responses that wasn't supposed to, things that might be unauthorized or harmful.
Yeah.
The most effective countermeasure, really, is strong input validation and standardization.
Okay.
It means you have to carefully filter, scrutinize all the inputs from users.
Yeah.
The goal is to strip out any malicious commands before they hit the model's core logic.
Right.
It sounds simple, but, designing filters that are robust enough to catch clever attacks, that's the real challenge. It's a constant sort of cat and mouse game.
Like a bouncer at the door for your AI's inputs, checking IDs carefully. Got it. But what if the attacker is more subtle? What if they're trying to trick the AI without actually messing with the model itself? Like maybe tweaking the input data just enough to fool an AI into making a wrong classification.
Right, that's what we call an evasion attack. In that case, the attacker subtly modifies the input data. The aim is to deceive the model, cause it to misclassify something, but without altering the model's underlying parameters. It's quite clever, actually. It can bypass defenses if your input validation isn't comprehensive enough. You see, it used to fool things like fraud detection systems.
Okay, so input validation is key there too. Now, if attacking the inputs is one vector, what about the foundation? What if the AI's training data gets corrupted before it even learns? What's the best defense against that kind of data poisoning?
Yeah, data poisoning is a serious one. The best countermeasure is proactively identifying and removing outliers and anomalous data points from the training dataset before training. Attackers often make small but impactful changes. So finding those weird entries, those anomalies, is really crucial to maintain the model's performance and stop it from being skewed from the start. Think of it like quality control for your data.
And how can we spot that kind of risk early, ideally before the model's even built?
Tracing data provenance. That's really key. It helps you track the source, the origin, and the integrity of your training data throughout its whole life cycle.
So knowing where it came from.
Exactly. Where did it come from? Who touched it? Has it been tampered with? This lets you flag any irregular patterns that might suggest poisoning. If you don't have strong provenance, you're kind of building on shaky ground.
That makes sense for building trust. What about a trickier type? There's this thing where an attacker changes online data after it's collected but before it gets used for training, like intercepting it somehow.
You're likely talking about split view poisoning. And yes, it's particularly insidious. The data might look perfectly clean when you collect it, but it gets compromised later in the pipeline. It really highlights why you need continuous integrity checks all the way through your data pipeline, not just, at the point of ingestion. The attack surface is wider than you might think.
Okay, so it's not just the incoming data or the training data. What about the AI's own internal workings? Let's take a chatbot again. What's the most effective architectural control to stop someone getting unauthorized access to its long-term memory, where maybe sensitive stuff is stored?
Well, the foundational security elements are absolutely paramount here.
Yeah.
You need strong access controls, like role-based access control, RBAC, to ensure users only see what they're supposed to see.
Yeah, RBAC.
Then you need robust authentication, making sure users really are who they say they are. And of course, encryption, both for data at rest and when it's moving around. These are just critical for protecting sensitive data stored inside the AI's memory components. Without them, even a great model is vulnerable.
We've hit on some specific threats, but how does an organization get that big picture view of its AI risk? What's the absolute first step when you start to build a threat model for an AI system?
You always begin by identifying the system components, the data flows, and the trust boundaries. This is foundational. It lets you map out the whole system, pinpoint where the potential attack surfaces are, and then you can start designing effective ways to mitigate those risks. You can't protect what you don't understand, architecturally speaking.
Okay, map it all out first. And to make sure you're thorough in that process, is there a good way to structure it, like a framework or something?
Absolutely. The most effective way is to apply a comprehensive framework, something that guides you systematically through identifying components, analyzing the attack surface, listing potential threats, and then prioritizing them. Frameworks like Stride that helps you categorize threats like spoofing, tampering, and so on, or MITRE Atlas, which is a knowledge base specifically for AI threats, are excellent tools for this. They provide a structured approach.
Stride and MITRE Atlas. Okay.
Mm.
So once you have that threat model, how do you actually test if your AI can withstand those threats? What's the best way to find those potential adversarial attacks specific to AI?
That would be adversarial testing. This involves intentionally trying to fool or break the AI model using manipulated inputs. It directly targets those AI-specific vulnerabilities that traditional security testing might completely miss. It's essentially about stress testing your AI against attacks designed to exploit its learning process.
And for really complex systems like these large language models where the risks are quite nuanced, how do we make sure our vulnerability testing is genuinely effective, covers all the bases?
You absolutely must assess the full AI tech stack. That means looking way beyond just the model itself. You need to evaluate risks at the model level, things like hallucination or bias. Then implementation flaws, maybe guardrail bypasses, system integration vulnerabilities like insecure APIs, and even runtime manipulation like prompt chaining. It demands a truly holistic view, top to bottom.
That term black box pops up a lot with advanced AI, especially deep learning.
Hmm.
What's the biggest risk that IT security folks need to tackle with these less transparent systems?
Yeah, the black box issue. Primarily, it's the lack of transparency and auditability. When you can't verify the decisions or understand the reasoning behind them because it's opaque, it massively increases the risk. Issues could stem from malicious input, maybe flawed training data you didn't catch, or even hidden security breaches within the model. If you can't see inside, trusting it becomes much harder.
And once an LLM is out there working, especially if it's been fine-tuned for a specific job, how do we stop its security posture from sort of degrading over time?
That's a great point. The key is validating, post-tuning, and layering runtime protections. So you need to revalidate the model's security after any significant fine-tuning. And then you need ongoing safeguards during operation, things like output moderation, checking what it says, and continuing that robust input sanitization we talked about. It's a proactive approach. It's critical to make sure the model stays secure and doesn't drift away from its intended purpose or safety constraints.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Think about AI in wider business operations. What's a potential downside if a company uses a generative AI tool internally, maybe something like PassGPT, perhaps for their own security teams?
Well, without really strict guardrails, tools like that which are designed to generate or test passwords simulate attacks, they could, potentially, lead directly to access, exploits, and security breaches if misused or if they escape controls. They're incredibly useful for security testing, for red teaming, when controlled, but you absolutely have to understand their dual-use potential. Powerful tools need careful handling.
Right, the double-edged sword. On a more positive note, how can adding a threat intelligence feed really boost an AI-based threat detection system?
Oh, significantly. The main benefit is enhancing the detection accuracy for both known and emerging threats. Threat intelligence keeps the AI system up to date on the latest attack methods, the newest indicators of compromise. This leads to much more precise detection, fewer false alarms, fewer false positives, and that makes security teams way more productive because the AI is smarter about what real threats look like.
Now, so much of enterprise AI involves using third-party solutions, right? So when you integrate a vendor's AI system, say for automated recruitment, what's the best way to ensure it's secure and fair, especially around candidate assessments?
Collaborative evaluations involving experts are really paramount there. You need a multidisciplinary review,
Meaning?
bringing together security people, data scientists, HR specialists, maybe even legal or ethics experts. They need to work together to spot potential biases, security flaws, other vulnerabilities, and get them corrected quickly. It's not just a tech check. It's ensuring the AI is safe and ethical for that specific sensitive use case.
Makes sense for something like recruitment. What about, say, a fintech company deploying a vendor's fraud detection model? How do they check its integrity before it goes live?
Again, I'd say adversarial testing is the gold standard here too. It lets the company's security team simulate realistic attack scenarios. Maybe try feeding it poison data or other tricky inputs and see how the vendor's model behaves under stress. You absolutely want to find those weaknesses before it's responsible for protecting real financial transactions.
And if you're using a third-party AI assistant that has access to sensitive internal data, like company emails or internal documents, how do you stop unauthorized data access?
Implementing and strictly enforcing role-based access control, RBAC, is absolutely key. This ensures employees can only get the AI assistant to retrieve or view information that's within their specific authorization level. If you don't have permission to see it normally, the AI shouldn't give it to you either, no matter how you ask. That directly tackles the risk of unauthorized access.
What about AI solutions that depend heavily on lots of third-party bits and pieces, libraries, data sets, pre-trained models? How do you guarantee the integrity of that whole complex supply chain?
That requires proactive auditing of third-party components. You have to emphasize verifying the authenticity and the security of all those external pieces, the libraries, the data sets, everything, before you integrate them into your own AI solution. It's like checking the ingredients list and the supplier's reputation before you use something in your recipe. You need to trust the whole chain.
Let's take a healthcare example. A hospital is deploying a cloud-based AI for patient diagnosis. Given the sensitivity, what's the absolute #1 priority before integrating it?
Oh, without a doubt, it has to be securing patient data using robust encryption methods. In healthcare, you're dealing with extremely sensitive, personally identifiable information. Strong encryption for data moving around and data just sitting there is non-negotiable. It's critical for compliance, like with IKEA, but fundamentally for ensuring patient data is handled appropriately and ethically. It's the absolute baseline for trust.
Okay, encryption first. Now, consider a payment service using a third-party AI for fraud detection. What kind of contract clause should they have about how the vendor uses customer data for retraining the AI model? You wouldn't want surprises there.
Yeah, you definitely need a strict data usage clause in the contract. This clause must explicitly state that customer data cannot be used for retraining the AI model without prior, specific, written approval. This helps you stay compliant with privacy rules like GDPR, and it protects you from the vendor misusing data in ways you didn't anticipate. It clearly defines the boundaries.
So once these vendor systems are up and running, how do organizations keep tabs on the ongoing risk? That supply chain risk isn't static, right?
Absolutely not. It's very dynamic. It demands ongoing reassessment of vendor cybersecurity. It can't be just a one-time check during procurement. New vulnerabilities pop up, vendor security practices might change, the threat landscape evolves. Your monitoring and assessment have to be continuous to keep pace. It's more like managing a relationship than a single transaction.
And before you even sign that contract, before integration, what's the best control to make sure a potential vendor actually meets your company's security standards?
That would be a comprehensive third-party risk assessment. This is your deep dive before commitment. It should evaluate all the security angles, set clear risk criteria based on your requirements, and validate that the vendor's controls actually meet those requirements. It's your main gatekeeper, ensuring they're suitable from a security perspective before you let them in.
Okay, here's a tricky one. A marketing company uses a third-party Gen AI service. Suddenly, they face copyright infringement claims, maybe because of the AI's output or perhaps the data it was trained on. How do they best protect themselves from that financial and legal headache?
That's a very real and growing concern. The most effective protection is vendor-provided IP indemnification. It's a contractual safeguard. It essentially means the AI provider agrees to take responsibility to cover the costs and liability if infringement claims arise from the AI's output or its training data. It shifts that specific legal and financial risk back to the vendor who built and trained the AI.
IP indemnification. Got it.
Yeah.
Now, for constantly embedding, monitoring, verifying security in these vendor solutions, what tools are particularly useful for getting visibility into all those third-party components?
Tools like software composition analysis, SCA, and software bill of materials, SBOM tools, are incredibly helpful here. SCA tools scan your code to find open-source components and known vulnerabilities. And SBOM is basically an ingredients list for your software, detailing all the components, including third-party ones. Together, they give you crucial visibility for managing that supply chain security risk.
Makes sense. Lots of AI chatbot platforms now allow third-party plugins, right? That seems like another potential entry point for trouble. What's the best strategy to reduce the risk of supply chain attacks coming through those plugins?
Yeah, plugins can definitely expand the attack surface. The most effective strategy is generally restricting plugin use to verified and sandboxed options. This means only allowing plugins that have been thoroughly vetted for security and running them in an isolated environment, a sandbox. So even if they are compromised, they can't easily affect the core AI model or access sensitive data. It's about creating a walled garden for these extensions.
Okay, final question on this. When you're monitoring AI performance in these vendor solutions after deployment, what's the best approach to really ensure trustworthiness and catch problems early on?
The most effective approach is focusing on AI-specific metrics tied to the model's actual function. Things like output bias and anomalies. Are the outputs fair? Are there sudden strange patterns in its responses or decisions? These metrics are key indicators for spotting flawed logic, potential discrimination, or other issues that directly impact the AI's trustworthiness and reliability in the real world. You need to monitor how it's behaving, not just if it's running.
Wow, okay. That was quite the deep dive into the real nuts and bolts of AI security and risk management. We really covered a lot of ground from digging into specific attacks like prompt injection and data poisoning to the absolute importance of solid threat modeling, and clearly the critical need for rigorous oversight of vendors in that whole AI supply chain. It seems abundantly clear that deploying AI effectively isn't just about the exciting technology itself. It's really a sophisticated mix of technical safeguards, yes, but also continuous monitoring and really clear governance policies. It all boils down to building trust, doesn't it? Both inside the organization and with any external providers.
Exactly right. Being proactive about identifying risks, implementing controls that can adapt, and maintaining transparency throughout the entire AI lifecycle. These are just non-negotiable now. Anyone looking to leverage AI safely, ethically, and effectively in today's fast-moving environment needs to have these elements firmly in place. And maybe a final thought to leave with you. As AI keeps evolving at this incredible pace, becoming more integrated into everything, more autonomous, how will we, as humans, make sure our own ability to provide oversight, our critical thinking, actually keeps pace with AI's ever-expanding capabilities and its growing complexities? That's a challenge we'll all be grappling with.